Hi, this is James Zhang with Full Capital, and I'm here with Perry Zheng of Cashflow Portal. Perry, thanks for jumping on.
Hi, thanks for having me again a year later.
Yeah, Perry. So Perry, maybe to kick it off, tell people a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into Cashflow Portal and sort of what it does for general partners and limited partners out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I came from an engineering background. I started off as a software engineer at Twitter and Amazon, then went to Lyft also as a software engineer. So I live in Seattle. When I first joined Lyft, it was 300 people. When I left, it was 3,000 people. So I was one of the early employees. While at Lyft, I started buying real estate and I had 7 single families in the Bay Area and Seattle. Then I went to multifamily, and that's how I met you. Our first syndication is a 172 unit in Dallas, Texas. I raised about 3.5 out of the 4.3 on that deal. We are lead sponsors on that deal. That's back in 2019. And for that one, I was using DocuSigns and just manual signatures and manual wiring instructions and so on. In 2020, we did a 408 unit, and it's a $12 million raise. I was also one of the lead sponsors. We use a behemoth investor portal for that raise. And in 2021, I used my own portal for the equity raising. It was 236 unit apartment that I did personally. And at the time, I couldn't disclose that I owned the company because I was still actually working at Lyft. But then my LPs who invest in that deal, who also invest in the previous deal, said that I actually like this new portal better than the portal that you were using before. And that was the impetus for me to quit my job. We applied to Y Combinator. We got in. It's a highly prestigious incubator program in Silicon Valley, where some of the alumni include DoorDash, Stripe, Airbnb, Dropbox, etc. So fast forward 2.5 years after we started the company, we have about 25 people working, and most of them are software engineers, all located in North America. And just such a blessing on how far we have come that I was combining my experience in technology with real estate.
All right. So I guess to recap, so you did your first deal in 2019. It was sort of more manual, investor by investor, and then you used a larger syndication platform, and that was a little bit more difficult to use, and it was probably set up for guys, maybe on a larger scale. And then now on the last deal and the last couple of deals, you've used Cashflow Portal. And so I guess what metric, or how do you guys sort of track how many people have used Cashflow Portal? Because I know you were probably sort of a little bit of the guinea pig to start it, and then now how many syndicators have used it? Sort of how do you guys track sort of investments across the portal now?
Yeah, absolutely. We have more than 350 syndicator customers using it, which is pretty significant. And we have more than 5,000 LPs on the platform. Now, the syndicators include the co-sponsors and the lead sponsors. And we were growing, 50%, 30, 40, 50% month over month, and consistently 40% month over month. So it's been this kind of hockey stick exponential, growth that I'm tasting it for the first time in tech companies.
So we have your screen here pulled up. I mean, maybe show us maybe one or two things that make you guys different, or that people say they really like about your platform. If you could show us a couple things. I know we don't have time to go into like a full demo that you would do for a general partner, but maybe highlight a couple things that you think are unique to the platform.
Sure, absolutely. The first thing you might notice is that there's a button as a syndicator that can allow you to switch between investing and syndicating. That means as a syndicator, you actually don't need a separate email address to invest in your own deals. A lot of times with other portals, you have to log out and then log in as your LP email address. So here I can just switch between syndicating and investing, this is the UI, super pretty, okay? So that's one feature. It's kind of like Airbnb, where you have one login that you can switch between hosting and traveling. And that's the same thing on Cashflow Portal. That's one difference. The second really interesting thing, most people have this, but we still would absolutely support this. So the first thing I'll do is go to classes. On the classes, you can set up your ownership percentage of each class and the minimum investment. You can also specify a preferred return, in this case, cash and cash. And in that case, after the preferred return is a 70-30 split. So you can set up waterfall structures such that when you're making distributions, you can give one amount and we automatically calculate all the waterfalls and the hurdles for each class. So the investors get the correct amount of distributions. So we support that as well. The next one, which a lot of people are asking for, and some portals don't have that, is the idea of co-sponsors, right? You can add a member, you put in their first name, last name, email address, and you can say if this is an admin sponsor, a co-sponsor, or a team staff. The co-sponsors do not see other sponsors, investors, okay? The admin sponsor can see everything, that's fair, but then the co-sponsor actually has a setting on their end say that, hey, even the admin sponsor cannot see my investors' email addresses. They can see my investors, they have to see them, but they cannot see my investors' email addresses. So that's a flag. The team staff is useful because a lot of people create a syndication specific email address for that particular deal, such that all the LPs can respond to the same email. And team staff is used for that on a deal by deal basis. So when you send out these monthly updates, they can reply to the team staff email. Okay, so that's really nice. So that's the third point. The biggest differentiator, which I will show you, is the LP experience. So here as an LP, this is the deal, the overview, the offering size, the projected cash and cash, about the offering, and then asset details. This is our customer's favorite feature, which I will show you in a second. They click on Invest Now. They go into the investment funnel. Very, very intuitive. They'll create a new profile. In this case, I'll call this James LC. Like that. Add the profile, select the sponsor. They have to select the class A in this case. Put in the 50,000 investment or 75,000. This is our customer's favorite feature. As part of the subscription, we have questionnaires, which is LP specific, but not deal specific. We digitize the questionnaires. And you can use a questionnaire from one deal to the next deal, because that's not related to the deal. That's just related to you as an LP. And because I was investing as an entity, it will ask me questions about the entity. So in this case, James LC. And all this information was already pre-populated, okay? Because this is a File 6B offering, we also ask about the relationship, right? So such as what is your substantive relationship and whether you are an officer in a public held company. And some of these questions are not trivial to answer. So we even put like this answer is the most common if you're confused. There are questions like, have you ever invested in private placements in the last 5 years? And people are like, what is a private placement? We have a question mark next to it. So, oh yeah, that's a private placement. Then next, they can verify their accreditation status. They can say, I'm accredited based on net worth or income, or they can say, I'm not accredited. In that case, the software asks them more questions about how they're not accredited. This is extremely helpful because they don't have to answer the questions that are not relevant to them, right? Normally, yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, what I was gonna say was a lot, like if it's not set up in this format, you typically get like a 20-page PDF, and then basically somebody's gonna have to print that out or put it in DocuSign or something and like fill this out manually. So this is great. Keep going.
Yes. If you think as a GP perspective, the other advantage of this questionnaire is that Exhibit A is a click of a button, because all of these questions are saved into the database in column format. Right. Otherwise,
can you show me how the Exhibit A is made?
Sure. The Exhibit A, I'll show you at the end.
Oh, yeah, go through this. Yeah, finish this off.
It's literally a click of button called export to spreadsheet. Okay. Here on the last step is they need to verify their entity type. If they have a trust, we ask them if the trust is revocable. If yes, we ask them more questions. But if the LP selects LLC, we don't ask them any questions about the trust. So the feedback for the LP consistently has been, this is probably the easiest funnel I have ever seen, especially they are investing on the next deal. Okay. All right. Now they click on save now. Here is a meta point I want to mention. You can see that that page loads up almost instantly. That's because we were pre-optimizing the loading of this page as soon as they start the funnel. So for the LP, it just feels like the software is very snappy and fast. But that's because we were doing some magic in the backend to make it super fast. All right, so the LP now is putting their investment, the amount, distributions, cash flow history. It's also mobile responsive. This is what it looks like on mobile, super responsive. The investments keep going up because I do a lot of demos, but otherwise it's just 1 or 2 investments. Yeah, so that's that. And then the LP, by the way, can go in here, and then what else can the LP do? They can change their profile and add their bank account. Once you add the bank account, we do the distributions directly on the bank account through the portal. Okay.
Can you flip over to, all right, so this is from the LP perspective, going through the process, subscribing to the deal, figuring out where to wire the money, all that stuff. So that's perfect. So from the GP perspective, let's say I got 50 investors in the deal.
Yeah.
Can you show me an example of what I see as a GP?
Yes. So I click on a button called switch to syndicating. I click into this deal. I see that James LLC with the $50,000 investment just came in with the status 1 out of 2 signed. As a GP, I can view the questionnaire in this format. I'm a GP. It's such a luxury to be able to fill the questionnaire this way versus on a PDF, right? It's just so cool. And then now as a GP, I'm ready to sign, to countersign. So they go ahead and click on this and then click on countersign. And then now countersign. That's that. The status has changed to countersign. Then they can send wire instructions. They can also say the wire has been received. Note that we are working on a very cool feature where the LP can fund the investment directly on the portal in about a month. So by the time we attend your conference, the LP can actually connect with their own bank account and then fund the investment right there and then. We already do distributions directly on the portal, but then in the future, the LP can fund the investment directly on the portal as well. Here comes our customer's second favorite feature. This used to be the favorite feature, but now it's the second favorite feature. Is a lot of times the LP will make a mistake. They put in their trust name wrong, misspell the trust name, or they put in some random stuff wrong. I think we're the only portal that I know of that we can add an addendum directly on the portal. So here's what an addendum looks like, right? And so this is the questionnaire formatted into the PDF format. And as a GP, I'm just gonna like, oh, the phone number is wrong. I'm gonna cross out this GP, this phone number. I'm gonna put a new text box next to it. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger and then put in the initials next to it. And then bingo, that's my addendum, right? The alternative way of doing this is that they either download the document, do an addendum outside of the portal, upload it back into the portal, or they delete the whole investment and let the LP start all over again, right? Both of which are highly inefficient. So the addendums is super helpful.
Perry, do you see most general partners doing like all of this themselves, or do you guys support them in sort of setting this up, or do they have like an investor relations person who does this? Because obviously the GP, they're focused on the deal. They might be calling investors. You guys have done this for a while now. Who are most of the people interacting with on the day-to-day on this?
Got it. We have customers that have more than $100 million of equity under management, not even like equity under management. So assets like $400, $500 million. And because the equity has grown. And people who are above the $50 million equity under management usually has a investor relations person. And we give them training on how to use the software. And because our software is actually really easy to use, we actually help you on your first couple deals. We help you set up the profile types for each one of those, right? I can go into a little bit more on the GP side. There's all kinds of stuff. You can replace the underlying file of this template without changing any of the signature blocks, which is like you made a one typo and you're like, oh, dang, I need to do the whole thing all over again. No, you don't have to. You can just replace the underlying template without changing any of the signature blocks. So to answer your question, the people who are more than $50 million of equity under management usually have a dedicated person in which we do maybe an hour or 2 hours of training. People who are less than it, they are talking to LPs, they are talking to, writing their emails and so on, but they are also highly motivated to do that. And something to note, we have more customers. They are migrating from other portals than customers who never know about an investor portal. And so they know the basics. They know kind of what steps they have to go through. So it's a breath of fresh air for them. So, oh, wow, I didn't know this that easy, actually.
So talk to the syndicator who they have no portal right now.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm.
Why do I even need a portal? Why don't we start there? And then I want to talk about the guy who's on any portal and then why this is different. So let's take the first question. I'm a syndicator. I'm doing, 1 or 2 deals a year and I'm raising from 25 people. I do it all manually, but why do I even need a portal?
Yeah. I can speak from experience that our very first deal, we didn't have a portal. And it was one of the most stressful times in my life. I spent majority of my time, going on one-on-ones with LPs. The last thing I want to think about is I receive a wire and I have to send an email to this LP. I have to find their email address. I have to go to a spreadsheet and put down the fact that they have wired their money. I need to type out that sentence. I don't know which sentence I need to type out. And imagine doing that for 100 people. Yes, each person takes about 2 or 3 minutes, but they add up. And it's something that always nags you, right? But imagine a different world where even if you have 100 investors, it's a one click. And in the future, it's going to be recognized by the software that this person has wired their money. So it's automatic in the future. It's such a big world of difference. When you are raising and you have 200 investors, it's a nightmare when you try to do this by yourself. What this provides is cap table management, which helps you save time so you can spend more time with family. But it also gives the LP the sense that you are legit. And that kind of professionalism is so important. I don't imagine anyone try to raise, anywhere more than $5 million nowadays without a portal. And for those people who are like debating between a portal, it's like, oh, it's gonna be expensive, blah, blah, blah. Like if you're raising $5 million, it's like $228 a month. So we basically charge based on funds under management. If you're raising, say, $10 million, it's $345. Like this is like drop in the bucket if you literally are responsible for $10 million of people's money.
Right. Okay. So that's the guy going from no portal to a portal.
Yep.
Now, all right. Now I've got, let's say there's 10 portals out there or 5 portals. I don't know how many portals are out there. Why this portal versus any of the other ones?
Yeah, great question. So I'm speaking as a founder. I try not to go into the feature debate. And, a year since we chatted, we probably have the most comprehensive feature at this point. And we're probably 1/5 of the price as any other legit, big portals. I want to talk about maybe on some meta points. We are the new kid on the block. We're the newest entrant. People were always pleasantly surprised. Why is it that our portal is really comprehensive, even though we only existed for 2 to 2.5 years? If I were to summarize why we are good, it will be that there are not that many times in which Silicon Valley engineering is introduced to commercial real estate. There's a huge difference between Silicon Valley engineers versus, like just regular engineers. Maybe that's a little bit of arrogance speaking, but when I was an engineering manager at Lyft, I was used to using Google, Lyft, and I remember the amount of engineering complexity to build these apps. And then I looked at the portals. It's not that hard to build these. To give you an example, there are a lot of few portals that exist for 5+ years and still don't have ACH distributions. We have 1.5 engineers that build ACH distributions in 3 months. It's a huge, very complex fintech product, and we build it in 3.5 months. I know a typical engineer spends about 2 months building the 2-factor authentication. Our engineer built it in 2 weeks. It's like unprecedented amount of velocity to build these very complex, security related features. Our team is mostly engineering, and we have 2 people that went to MIT, 5 people that went to University of Washington, 1 person that went to University of Michigan. We have 2 people that used to work at Facebook. 1 person turned down Google to work with us, and 1 person turned down Amazon to work with us. So it's a stacked team of just amazing engineers. And it just happens that I know what the user wants because I'm a user. So we were able to combine the product and the engineering. So
yeah, I think, just taking your 2 backgrounds, one as a general partner and one as an engineer, you've been able to create a portal that sort of scratches your own itch on a problem that you saw in the industry. And so, I think it's been great, and people have given us really good feedback, and obviously in today's market, it's definitely a little bit choppier raising equity, and you don't want anything. People are on vacation, people are going all over the place during the summer, and you're trying to raise $10 million for your deal. You want to make it as easy as possible so that when someone sits down and makes the decision to invest in your deal, that they can knock it out in, let's say 20 minutes or 30 minutes, without having to, go through a lot of different forms and a lot of different hurdles. And so I think this is great. What would be the best way, if maybe it's a general partner who wants to get more information about the portal, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, the best way is go check out our main website, and then scroll down, you'll see a lot of companies use us, and then you can even read through some of the reviews. The other thing I do want to say is we have really good support. We created a WhatsApp group for every syndication group, and you can ask us questions there. We respond within minutes instead of like the next day or the day after. So usually people get their problems resolved like on the same hour. Okay. And then there are all kinds of reviews. To get in touch with us, click on this button called schedule a demo. And then that goes to the calendar link. As you can see, we're already booked for the next 2 days because we actually have a lot of demos now. So the company is doing really well. Just last few weeks, despite the macro conditions, unprecedented amount of growth, unprecedented revenue, the highest revenue ever, highest number of users ever, and so on. So we've been very lucky. And because I'm a builder, it's like for many years that I haven't been publicly, advertising or marketing, because I'm not good at marketing. I'm not necessarily good at sales or anything, but I do think that I'm a builder and we love building good products. There are a lot of things I would love to show the prospective customers when they book a demo with us that I didn't get a chance to go through in this call. But yeah, there's a lot of nitty-gritty things that we do really well, attention to detail that we are very proud of.
Well, I appreciate it, Perry. Worked with you on a number of deals, and so you'll be at the Noble Capital Conference here in September, and we appreciate you coming out. So definitely, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and book a demo and go through the portal. And then if you want to see Perry live, he will be at the conference in September. So I appreciate you coming on, Perry, and sharing a little bit about Cashflow Portal.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, Perry.